Hello students, today I'm going to be reading Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the real version, not the fractured. Once upon a time, in a deep dark wood, lived three bears. The biggest was Papa Bear, the middle one was Mama Bear, and the littlest one was Baby Bear. Every morning they had porridge for breakfast, but that morning the porridge was too hot and burned their mouths. "Let's go for a walk in the woods," said Mama Bear, "until the porridge is cool enough to eat." "Good idea," said Papa Bear. So they took Baby Bear's paws in theirs and walked out into the wood. Their little house was left empty, with 3 bowls of porridge cooling on the table. Then through the wood came a little girl. She was lost and hungry, and her name was Goldilocks. This is Papa Bear, this is Mama Bear, and this is Baby Bear. And there's a picture up here of Baby Bear. Papa, Mama. When she saw the little house, she thought, "Oh, I wonder who lives there. Perhaps they can tell me how to find my way out of the wood. Perhaps they can give me something to eat." So she went up to the door of the little house and knocked, but no one came to the door. Even when she knocked again, she tried to look into the window, but she wasn't tall enough. She called, but still no one came. She stood on her tippy toes and stretched up high and opened the door, even though it wasn't her house. She went quietly inside and looked around. No one was at home, but on the table stood 3 bowls of porridge. A great big bowl, a medium-sized bowl, and a tiny little bowl. "I'm so hungry," thought Goldilocks, "and there's no one here to ask. I'll just try this porridge." First, she went on to the great big bowl. She dug in the spoon and took a big mouthful, but it was too hot. "Too hot, too hot, too hot," said Goldilocks, and she dropped the spoon back into the bowl. She went to the medium-sized bowl and tried the spoonful of that, but it was sticky and cold. Goldilocks made a face. Too cold," she said, as she dropped the spoon back into the bowl. Then she tried the porridge in the littlest bowl. It was not too hot and not too cold, but just right. So she ate it all up and licked the bowl clean. There Goldilocks is trying to get into their house. And there Goldilocks is trying too hot, too cold, and just right. And see, but the words hot and cold have changed, like hot right there, and cold is squiggled. Goldilocks was tired because she'd walked so far. She saw 3 chairs against the wall. A great big chair, a middle-sized chair, and a tiny little chair. First she climbed onto the great big chair, but it was too hard. She slid off it again. Then Goldilocks tried the middling-sized chair, but it was too soft, and she soon scrambled off. But when she sat in the little tiny chair, it wasn't too hard, and it wasn't too soft. It was just right. So she thought, "I'll sit here for a while." But just as Goldilocks thought that, the tiny little chair broke and she fell onto the floor. When she got up, she was cross and still tired. So she went upstairs and, even though it wasn't her house, and found a room with 3 beds. There was a great big bed, a middle-sized bed, and a tiny little bed. Goldilocks tried the great big bed first, but it was too hard. She rolled off it and tried the middle-sized bed, but it was too soft. Now, so So she left that one and tried the tiny little bed. Now that the bed wasn't too hard, it wasn't too soft, it was just right. Goldilocks fell fast asleep. There's the big chair, middle chair, tiny chair, big bed, middle bed, tiny bed. While she was asleep, the three bears came home from their walk in the woods. They looked at their porridge bowls, and Daddy Bear saw that the big spoonful had been taken from his bowl. In his great big bear voice, he growled, "Who's been eating my porridge?" In her soft middle voice, Mama Bear said, "And who's been eating my porridge?" In her tiny little voice, Baby Bear said, "Who's been eating my porridge? And has eaten it all up." Then Papa Bear saw that his chair had been moved, and he roared, "Who's been sitting on my chair?" And Mama Bear said, "Who's been sitting on my chair?" And Baby Bear began to cry, "Who's been sitting on my chair and has broken it all up?" Then the three bears went upstairs in his great big voice. Then Daddy Bear said, "Who's been sleeping in my bed?" And Mama Bear said, "Who's been sleeping in my bed?" And then Baby Bear cried, "Who's been sleeping in my bed? She's still in it." Mama Bear and Papa Bear came to look. They're like Goldilocks snoring in the little bed, but the sounds of Baby Bear crying woke her up and she sat up. When she saw the three bears looking at her, she was so frightened that she jumped right out of the window. Luckily, she landed in soft grass, so she wasn't hurt. She ran and ran and ran. Soon, she was out of the wood, and then she knew her way home. Goldilocks never came back and lived happily ever after. As for the three bears, whenever they went for a walk, after that they remembered to lock their door, so no one could creep in, eat their porridge, or break their chairs. So they lived happily ever after too. Everyone was happy, and that's the end. I didn't show the last page. This is them eating their porridge. That's all the little stuff. And then this is Goldilocks trying to jump out the window. I hope you like the story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Come back next time. Bye.